Welcome to the Fairy Tale Town escape game. Accompanied by a sharp scream, the massive roller coaster roars past. When it rushed to the top, numerous heads fell together. I turned my head and saw that one of them had a face just like mine. When I opened my eyes, I found myself in a hall. It looked like a reception room in a theme club. Chandeliers scattered around like stars, all in candy shapes. The shiny new tiles shimmered with a dazzling gem-like luster. The cloud-shaped white food table was full of pastries and fruit tea. The air was filled with a sweet smell. Welcome all players to join the Winners Club. The club is located in Fairy Tale Town. This is a place as beautiful as a fairy tale dream. You have all successfully cleared 2 theme games before. We have specially prepared a sightseeing trip to Fairy Tale Town for you as a reward. Of course, in return, you all need to work together to offer another exciting escape game performance. The electronic sound suddenly rang in the hall. At the same time, a huge semi-transparent screen appeared in midair. On the screen was a doll with a metallic texture face. Ow! The blood-red pupils swept around the hall. The doll grinned. Her smile reached her ears. I will be your guide for this sightseeing trip. There are a total of 20 players present. To prevent anyone from falling behind, please form teams of 2 on your own. The game will be played in small team format in the following attractions. As soon as the doll's voice fell, player number information for the 20 players appeared on the electronic screen. It was scrolling and playing nonstop. I quickly found my name on it. Player number 3, Alice. Behind my name was my real-time projection. Other players had already started to seek teammates. Just as I was preparing to find a corner to observe these people, a man walked straight towards me. Hello, you're Alice, right? My name is David. If you haven't found a suitable teammate yet, I want to team up with you. The man had a buzz cut, thick eyebrows, and big eyes. A fierce scar stretched from his forehead to his left face. But his eyes were calm. I couldn't see any malice. Why choose me? I don't think I'm special in any way. He laughed. You are a girl, and you look quite petite. The escape game is related to life and death. If you fail, you will not survive. Other players may not choose you to escape with them. If you can still meet a saint in the game, I would be so touched that I might shed a few tears on the spot. I don't care. It doesn't matter who I team up with. I don't particularly like his friendly approach, but I don't reject it either. Because no matter who I team up with, I won't die. I must survive until the end. After all the players had formed their teams, the doll herself appeared in the hall. She was dressed in exaggerated clown clothes, with a conspicuous red ball on her nose. If I'm not mistaken, this ball should be made of human eyeballs, layer upon layer, covered in sticky red liquid. The doll turned around dramatically and laughed out loud. Everyone has already formed their team, so let's start our delightful sightseeing tour. As her voice fell, the scenery around me suddenly changed. One moment I was indoors with a suitable temperature, and the next moment I was in a world of snow and ice. There was a huge Ferris wheel made of countless ice blocks, a roller coaster made of piled snow, ice sculptures with embedded colored lights, a carousel, a drop tower, and a snow slide that was more than 1,000 meters long. What appeared before me was an endless snow park filled with countless amusement facilities. Fairy Tale Town is the happiest place in the world, and the snow park is full of laughter from Fairy Tale Town. As the town's sign, of course, the first stop of our tour is here. The doll cheerfully tossed up a snowflake, her electronic voice filled with a sinister laughter. But it's too boring to just visit, so our escape game officially begins. Welcome to Fairy Tale Town Escape Game, the first level. Game Introduction. The first stop for visitors is the snow park built by the Snow Queen Elsa herself. Here, everyone can fully experience the joy of snow, but Elsa likes humans very much. If players stay too long, they are likely to be turned into snowmen by Elsa and stay here forever. Game rules. The snow park has hundreds of amusement facilities, which are huge and therefore extremely complex for humans. Players need to escape from here within 2 hours, otherwise they will be completely lost. Be aware that the park exit changes location every 20 minutes. Players need to explore diligently. Elsa has the ability to replicate ice and snow. If you are touched by the blue snowflakes sprinkled by Elsa, you will immediately be assimilated into a snowman. The game is timed for 2 hours. There are 5 places available for clearance, that is, among 10 groups of players. The first 5 groups to reach the exit will be judged successful. The remaining teams, even if they escape within 2 hours, are still considered to have failed the game. This game is a small confrontation. Players need to escape together with their teammates. If all members survive, otherwise it is still considered a failure. The game officially begins. Players, enjoy the fun of snow. The park, which was quiet and devoid of people just now, seemed to come alive at this moment and suddenly became lively. The Ferris wheel started to turn slowly. The colored lights inside the carousel began to flicker, accompanied by cheerful music running around the central ice pillar. The pirate ship swayed back and forth at a high speed. The seats of the drop tower rose into the air in an instant. But this is not the strangest thing. The strangest thing is that all these amusement facilities are full of people. The roller coaster roars past, and each seat is occupied by a visitor. When it rushed to the top, it was as if there was an invisible steel wire reaping heads at a high school, and quickly. Numerous heads fell together, the cut was neat, red liquid splashed everywhere, surprisingly forming a kind of terrifying beauty. My indifferent eyes finally fluctuated because I saw, among these heads falling one after another, one of them had a face just like mine. The moment I saw it, a phantom pain came from my neck, as if the head being cut off was really mine. Not only me, but I also saw all 20 players among these people. And looking at other amusement facilities, when the Ferris wheel rose to the top, the carriage tore apart and I fell down. The speed of the carousel reached its limit, and I was thrown to the ground, my head smashed into a pulp. Every time I see myself dying, my body will feel corresponding pain. Snow began to fall from the sky, and the perceived temperature was decreasing. David rubbed his hands and said, "Let's start looking for the exit. The snow should not stop, and our body temperature will gradually decrease. Also, that illusion, you should have noticed, similar pain will come from our bodies. If I'm not mistaken, this is also a crisis in the game. We need to escape as soon as possible." He was right. The illusions on the amusement facilities were not just visual threats. At the moment of witnessing their own death, players' bodies would feel pain. And just now I tried. These pains are only momentary, but they can add up to physical exhaustion. Body temperature decreases, plus the attack of pain. The longer we stay here, the more disadvantageous it is. It's like boiling a frog in warm water. Players will gradually lose their combat effectiveness and be trapped in the park forever. Staring at the road ahead, try not to pay too much attention to the amusement facilities. We go straight to find the exit. I made a decisive decision, but it's easier said than done. The roads in the amusement park are winding and complex. If you want to find the exit, you must remember every amusement facility you pass to prevent getting lost. And as long as the line of sight stays a little on the amusement facilities, you will see your own death. Therefore, David and I, almost every 2 minutes along the way, had to endure the pain once. When we ran near the big pendulum, David suddenly grabbed me. I followed his gaze and saw that in the open space in front of us, the Snow Queen Elsa was spinning, sprinkling blue snowflakes. The snowflakes were fluttering and drifting towards a nearby player. Those two didn't even have time to react. The moment they were touched by the snowflakes, their bodies began to quickly frost over, and in just half a minute, they turned into 2 snowmen. The game rules were right. Being touched by Elsa's blue snowflakes would immediately assimilate them. Suddenly, the Snow Queen turned around. Her beautiful blue eyes looked directly into mine. I could even see a gleam of pleasure in her eyes. She curled her lips slightly and raised her hand. The joints of the 2 snowmen began to move. With a turn of their feet, they ran towards David and me. I was startled. After the players were assimilated into snowmen, they were not just decoration. They also had attack power and became Elsa's puppets. David and I were about to run, but the 2 snowmen suddenly appeared in front of us, blocking our retreat from the front and back. Their speed was so fast. A dark shadow appeared overhead, completely blocking my sight. I looked up and saw the snowman in front of me. His body was rapidly expanding, occupying my entire field of view. His right hand turned into a rapidly spinning ice giant, which was now raised high and was coming down on me without any hesitation. The sense of impending death triggered a strong will to survive in me. Adrenaline surged rapidly. Before my brain could think of a countermeasure, my body reacted first. The snowman's legs were spread apart. I found a gap, bowed my body, and pounced on his left leg. Holding it, I used the momentum to flip and slide 2 body lengths back. At this point, the tragedy had already changed. The arc followed and landed squarely on the snowman's left leg. At the moment of contact with the ice and snow, the snowman's left leg instantly scattered into countless snowflakes. And because he lost his balance and was unstable, he also fell forward uncontrollably. With a bang, the snowman disappeared before my eyes and turned into a brief snowstorm. On the other end, David also dealt with the second snowman. He climbed directly onto the snowman's body and drove a stick he found somewhere into its head. After meeting up with David, I turned around and saw that the Snow Queen had suddenly left this area. Far away, I could see her blue skirt appearing above the rapids area, and I could faintly hear the screams of several players. Something seemed wrong. A thought flashed through my mind, but I couldn't grasp it. For safety's sake, we decided to change our route. As we walked, we analyzed. Players turned into snowmen would attack normal players. Their bodies would expand and their hands would become weapons. But correspondingly, with the increase in attack power, the snowman's defense was very weak, even very fragile. As long as we found the right timing, it was not difficult to counterkill them. Perhaps because the battle with the snowmen was too intense, David had consumed a lot of strength. After talking, he gasped for a while. Seeing a nearby ice wall, he wanted to lean against it to rest. I subconsciously looked over, and the moment I saw the ice wall clearly, my face changed slightly. I quickly grabbed his clothes and pulled him away from the ice wall. "What's wrong?" David turned his head to look, but saw nothing unusual. "Get closer and take a look, but be careful not to touch it," I said with a gloomy face. David leaned in and stared for a while. After backing up 2 steps, he took a sharp breath. "What is this thing?" I didn't expect there to be a new trap in this game. The surface of the ice wall looked nothing special. It seemed to be built with ordinary ice blocks and cold water. But just now, when David was about to lean on it, I clearly saw that the ordinary ice wall suddenly became incredibly smooth. The surface of the ice block reflected a cold light like a mirror. More importantly, the reflection of David in the mirror was not his serious expression at all, but a look of eagerness, as if he was expecting David to come closer. If I had touched the ice wall just now, would I have been pulled in by whatever was hidden inside it? David's face turned pale. Somewhat frightened, he rubbed his arm. "I'm not sure," I said, looking into the distance, "but we'll find out soon." In the left front of my field of vision, 2 players seemed to have just escaped from the Snow Queen's area, looking panicked. "The one with the black gloves is John. The one with the mechanical wristwatch is Tang Yuan," David said. "They are both college students, so they naturally formed a team." Both of them had faces of having a narrow escape, leaning against the ice wall of the big slide. Glad for their narrow escape. But at this moment, the ice wall suddenly became bright and smooth, and 2 pairs of hands slowly crawled out from inside, one wearing a pair of black gloves, one with a mechanical watch on the wrist, exactly the same as John and Tang Yuan's hands. But they themselves did not notice anything unusual. Because of different route planning, the 2 started to argue. The quarrel got louder and louder, until those 2 pairs of hands, like ghosts, suddenly stretched out and tightly covered their mouths and noses. The 2 were caught off guard and were instantly pulled into the ice wall. The whole thing happened in a blink of an eye. The 2 disappeared without a trace, not even making a sound. And that ice wall that swallowed the 2, the surface gradually emerged 2 lifelike ice sculptures of people. I turned around and saw David's hesitant expression. I tilted my head and asked, "What do you want to say? Do you want to ask me why I didn't warn them just now? I happened to be in their line of sight just now. If I had spoken up in time, they might not have died." David opened his mouth and said after a long while, "This is a competitive game. Only 5 groups of players can survive and enter the next round. Helping others does not benefit us." "I understand. As long as you understand," I said, looking at the Snow Queen in the distance, who was still in the rapids area. My voice was cold and indifferent, emotionless. "The game rules say that both players in a team must survive to succeed. so don't do anything stupid and hold me back." David nodded slightly and didn't say anything else. We tried our best to explore areas we hadn't been to, looking for the exit of the amusement park. But an hour passed, and we still found nothing. Both our body temperature and physical strength were constantly being depleted. The pain from the amusement facilities piled up on our bodies, and the lingering time was getting longer and longer. If we continue in this way, we may not be able to hold on for 2 more hours. What's worse, the Snow Queen appeared in front of us again. Fortunately, this time she was facing away from us. She had just assimilated 2 players into snowmen and drove them to chase another pair of players. David was about to pull me back and take a detour, but I suddenly stopped. I seemed to have grasped the fleeting thought just now. I pulled David back and said, the words coming out of my mouth were cleansed by the cold air, bringing a chilling chill. "Why does the game rule tell us that the Snow Queen's blue snowflakes will turn players into snowmen?" David looked at me in confusion, obviously not understanding what I meant. Considering that he was my teammate, I patiently explained it again. From the perspective of game settings, the Snow Queen's snowflakes, the illusions of the amusement facilities, and the ice wall that swallows players are all part of the game crisis rules that can alert players to the crisis. But why only mention the snowflakes? David pondered for a moment and quickly reacted. "You mean the game rules are intentionally guiding players to avoid the Snow Queen?" I nodded, my brain spinning rapidly. In a survival game involving life and death, players want to survive successfully. They must strive to remember the game rules and execute them. The game rules are using this to give players psychological hints, suggesting that everyone should stay away when they see her and never approach her. Why would he do this? David's thoughts suddenly became clear when I led him on this train of thought. The game rules do not want us to approach the Snow Queen. It is very likely that where the Queen appears is the exit of the amusement park. I looked at the time on my watch. The game had been going on for more than an hour. The Snow Queen had appeared in 4 places. Each stay lasted about 20 minutes. And the exit of the amusement park just happened to change location every 20 minutes. I raised my eyebrows, my tone finally a bit relaxed. It's safe to say that wherever the exit of the amusement park is, the Snow Queen appears there. She is deliberately preventing players from approaching the exit. The hints of the game rules are cooperating with her actions. What we need to do next is to avoid the Snow Queen and successfully run to the exit. Just now, we have confirmed that the exit of the amusement park is not an actual door, but a huge white snowflake printed on the ground under the Snow Queen's feet. The game will not set up an impassable deadlock, so there must be a feasible plan to safely reach the exit. David and I stared intently at the Snow Queen, looking for loopholes in her actions. "Found it," David said quickly, squinting. "After she sprinkles the blue snowflakes, her eyes will stare at the snowflakes. There is a 5-second pause in her actions. As long as we seize the opportunity and rush over within 5 seconds, we can successfully reach there." "Then wait for her next move," I said in a low voice. The place where we were hiding was about 40 meters away from the exit. The normal speed of a person can run about 4 meters in 1 second. David and I need to mobilize our physical limits and double this speed to have a chance to escape. The opportunity soon arrived. Another pair of players ran into the sight of the Snow Queen in a panic. She curled her lips in pleasure, spinning and raising the snowflakes in her hand. "Now!" David growled lowly. I followed him and rushed over at the fastest speed. With a 5-second countdown, the Snow Queen's body seemed to be fixed, motionless. I sprinted towards the snowflakes with all my might, beginning to shorten the 40-meter distance. With a 4-second countdown, her hand began to show signs of falling. I tried hard to mobilize all the muscles in my body. There was still 32 meters to the exit of the amusement park. With a 3-second countdown, her hand had fallen. The sound behind her seemed to attract her attention. She was ready to turn around, and I was constantly squeezing the air in my lungs, making the muscles in my legs perform to the extreme. There was still 24 meters to the exit of the amusement park. With a 2-second countdown, her attention had already left the blue snowflakes she had sprinkled. The running footsteps behind her were too loud. She completely turned around and looked over. My speed began to drop. There was still 17 meters to go. With a 1-second countdown, she squinted her eyes in interest, her finger pointing at the player who had turned into a snowman, ready to control the snowman to chase us. I pushed my speed to the limit. The distance shortened to 8 meters. The countdown was about to reach 0. Without turning my head, I could hear the sound of the snowman starting to move its joints. My lips had been bitten hard by myself. The red liquid filled my mouth. The taste of rust made my mind clearer. Faster. I was about to run there. Faster. I absolutely can't die here. There was a sound of wind whistling by. I suddenly pounced forward, sliding out the last distance with the friction of the icy road surface. Judging from the sound of high-speed rotation behind me, I could even feel that in 0.01 seconds, she would neatly cut open my back. But I touched the center of the huge white snowflake on the ground before that 0.01 second. The oppressive feeling behind me suddenly disappeared. In the blink of an eye, I returned to the club's hall. David came back 1 step earlier than me, sitting on the ground, panting heavily. I instinctively looked up at the text on the electronic screen. It showed that David and I were the second group of players to successfully escape. Someone was even faster than us. But at this moment, I can't care about who the first team is, because I have another thing to do. I picked up a dinner knife on the cooking table and walked in front of David. Before he reacted, I grabbed his collar with one hand and firmly held the dinner knife to his neck with the other. "Speak up," I said decisively. "What's your purpose in teaming up with me?" That's the first part of the story. Stay tuned for the next part, which will be released tomorrow. Hope you have a nice day.